Sometimes picking a team is the hardest choice when starting a dynasty in a college football game. Deciding between a bottom feeder, a good conference, or a lot of NIL can be a tough decision. I'm going to list off 10 schools that I think are the perfect schools for your first dynasty in college football 27. Starting us off is Charlotte. They're coming off of a 1-11 season, and they are arguably in the best group of five conference, along with in a great location with them being in the southeastern US, which is great for recruiting and potential conference realignment down the road. They have a large portion of their budget available, with 1,100 of their 1,400 points being free. Their athletic director expectations are pretty fair, with beating App State being the most rewarding goal. The other two goals seem pretty attainable too. Their school grade overall isn't terrible, but it could definitely get better, which is what you would strive to do during the rebuild. Next, we have Georgia State. Georgia State might be the hardest rebuild in the game. They're the second lowest overall, and they basically have the lowest budget you can get, 440, and only 70 of those points are available. On the bright side, they do have a promising freshman running back named Xavier Butler that could be fun to build around. The goals with Georgia State do look pretty tough, with one of them being force at least 10 turnovers, which sounds easy, but with a 66 overall defense, I can see that being a lot harder than it looks. And the same with allowing less than 30 points per game. Once again, it sounds easy, but with a bad defense, this could be pretty difficult. On top of that, the school grades are also pretty terrible. So this is all around an incredibly difficult rebuild. But at the same time, who doesn't like a challenge? Next up, we have UMass. UMass is another challenging rebuild with only 105 of their 410 dynasty points available to spend. They are a low overall team, fresh off of an 0-12 season, and they seem like a pretty veteran group, so I'd assume it would be challenging to make them competitive for year two. They also have a very difficult challenge, expecting you to be ranked in the next four seasons, which is a tall task for a team with their historic record. The other two challenges seem fairly easy compared to that one. They too have some pretty bad school grades, which adds to the difficulty of their rebuild as well. Next, we have UCF. UCF is a team that I personally chose to rebuild. Let me know if you guys want to see a little bit more on that. They haven't been good recently, and Scott Frost isn't helping, so a coaching change is actually pretty possible in real life. They don't have the best dynasty point budget, but about a third of their budget is available to spend, which is pretty good. They're also in a pretty good conference for a rebuild, in my opinion. The Big 12 is a conference that earns some respect from potential recruits with its Power 4 status, but it's also a very winnable conference, with it only having a couple really strong teams like BYU and Texas Tech. The AD expectations are also very attainable, in my opinion. None of them seem like they can't be done. And their school grades are a selling point, with very strong conference prestige, along with some other decently high grades. Next up is South Carolina. South Carolina is actually one of my favorite teams on this list because it's a great rebuild in the SEC. Shane Beamer is very much on the hot seat. In fact, it's pretty impressive that he still has a job right now, which is a great opportunity for a dynasty. And they're a fairly talented team that could have ability to play well in year one. It's a fairly old group, but they have a good amount of dynasty points available to get some recruits or make some moves in the portal at the end of the season. The 80 expectations honestly don't seem that bad, as one is to maintain the facilities ranking and the other is to beat Clemson, and both are very rewarding. The school grades are also by far the best out of any school that we've seen so far. Now we move on to North Dakota State. Of course, I had to add North Dakota State in here with them entering their inaugural season at the FBS level, joining the Mountain West Conference. They honestly have a pretty good budget considering it's their first year at the FBS level. The 80 expectations aren't very bad in my opinion, especially considering the school demeanor is impatient. Win a bowl game in 5 years, sign one 3-star recruit, and also allow less than 30 points per game all seem like attainable goals to me. And then on top of that, they have a pretty solid school grades with all things considered and them being new to the FBS. If you're still watching and enjoying the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Up next, we have Hawaii. Hawaii is another one of my favorite teams on this list because of their potential and especially because of their location. They are in the perfect spot to recruit on the West Coast, which tends to be a pretty good pool of players in this game. They are also in Hawaii. I mean, come on, it's an easy sell. The goals aren't too bad, with the most difficult one being win 75% of your conference games, to be honest. The school grades aren't the best, but they can be built. If you're choosing Hawaii, it's more of a long term rebuild, not a dynasty where it all pays off in year two or three. Moving on to Stanford. Stanford is a very exciting team to take over for many reasons. One of them being right in front of us. They have a stupid amount of dynasty points available to spend and a pretty impressive overall budget. They are also an incredible academic school, which can be a good sell for some recruits. And also, take a look at their alumni. Andrew Luck is back working there. Everybody knows who CMC is. Who wouldn't want to be part of Stanford? The icing on the cake for me is the fact that they're in the ACC now, which helps with conference prestige. The AD expectations honestly are really easy. The goals aren't difficult to achieve, and the school demeanor is patient, which is great. They also have some pretty solid grades, which is a good thing for recruiting. Next is Oregon State. To me, Oregon State is exciting for one main reason, and that's that the Pac 12 is back. There may only be eight, but it is certainly back. Oregon State is a decently challenging rebuild as their team is old and they don't have a crazy amount of dynasty points available, but that's also fun because you have to do the best with what you have. The goals in place seem like they are fairly easy to achieve, which is good because it adds to those dynasty points that are missing. The downside is the school grades, especially considering the level OSU could have been if the Pac 12 hadn't crumbled. But this is the perfect opportunity to bring them back and make them better than they ever were. And finally, we have Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, in my opinion, is the best team to rebuild in college football 27. They're in a great conference, and they have some young studs like running back Caleb Hawkins. They also have a solid amount of dynasty points available to spend and a very good sized overall budget, which is something that you definitely want when starting a dynasty. When it comes to AD expectations, the school demeanor is impatient, but the goals are pretty easy in my opinion, so I don't see it being hard to put a smile on the AD's face. The school grades are also amazing selling point because they are perfect for recruiting and dipping your toes into the portal when the times comes, which it most certainly will. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if there are any schools that I missed and why you like them as potential rebuilds.